Join us, your hosts, Alma,
And ja,
in our journey to find.
or to create a positive workplace.
You're listening to
Generation Positive. Hello, hello, hello! Kung nasan ka man, kung umaga ba dyan, afternoon or evening, welcome to another episode of Generation Positive. You're here with
Untitled
me,
Chapter.
Ja and Alma.
Mhm,
And last podcast episode na natin to.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
But don't worry, marami pa kayong maririnig, marami pa kayong matututunan. And go Alma, you can introduce the topic.
Yeah, this is actually a very special episode we have for our last episode.
Yeah.
Kasi what we're going to be talking about today is bridging the gap. Like, ano nga ba yun, bridging the gap? So what we're going to be talking about is what is it that the Gen Z find important when it comes to looking for work or like what they need in order to thrive, survive, and grow in these companies or organizations that they're going to be working for in the future. And what can these companies do in exchange to kind of compromise or meet those needs and demands that the
Yeah.
Gen Z have? So, ayun.
Yeah. So of course we have Elizha Corpus with us here today. And she can introduce herself. I mean, go ahead, Elijah. Go introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone, and I'm so glad to be here with you today. Basically, how do I introduce myself? I always start with my purpose. So, if I think about what I do, I guide individuals and organizations towards defining and creating their desired impact on the world. How do I do that? I have my own consulting firm. It's very creatively called Elisha Corpus Consulting. Pangalan ko lang siya. Yeah, and what we do is we specialize in culture transformation. So we work with different companies of different sizes and industries, and we try to guide them as they figure out what is that desired future that they want to work towards.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Wow.
other than that, I learned a lot of my culture transformation work from working in Microsoft. So I was there before I came back home here to the Philippines in 2018. I was working in their global learning and development team, and I was living in Seattle, Washington. And
Wow.
before that, I took my master's in human resources, also in the States. And I think that also shaped a lot of what I was thinking about when it comes to work and how we perform work, how we create environments for work. Other than that, I do believe a lot in doing things in a research based way. Alam ni Alma yan because we both went to the same undergrad.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think that influences a lot of the things we do, especially with culture transformation. One of the examples, I guess, that's most relevant for your episode today is our research on the future of work. So we wanted to find out what would that future of work be that young people like Gen Zs and millennials desire, and how can we help not just our client but any company out there who's interested? How can we help them to create that kind of desired future?
Wow. Wow, that's so amazing, Elijah.
We love that.
Well, like we love that. That's precisely why we wanted you on this show for this very special episode. Well, you mentioned yung research mo, the future for very
Mhm.
very fit, like very good fit for this episode. Can you tell us a little bit more about that so our listeners know what it's truly about?
Yeah, so our research is called The Future of Work from the Future of Work. So the future of work being these are your individuals aged 21 to 30. We tried to scope it down for the research, and if you cover
That's
that
nice.
individuals 21 to 30, that's half Gen Zs, half millennials. So that's
Mhm.
really how we tried to look at it. And this was a year-long research we did from August 2020 to August 2021. I think the benefit of not being in school, 'di ba, is wala namang deadline. So so
Oh my
one year
god.
talaga siya. Yeah. We got to be thorough, which is a great thing. We did like three phases of it, two phases quantitative survey, And then the third phase was like 11-hour long interviews where we
Wow.
Oh
really
my
dug
lord.
into the, yeah, we tried to
Mhm.
Oh
dig
my god.
into like why you say these things. Para very
Mhm.
thorough talaga.
Mm.
And yeah, three questions that we wanted to answer. First is, what do the future of work, so individuals aged 21 to 30, what do they value when it comes to work? Second question was, if they think about the future, right, what would they want that future to be like? And then
Mhm.
third is, do they believe that the companies of today are capable of providing that future? So yeah.
Ooh. Spicy, spicy yung third
Ooh.
question na
Oo
yan.
nga eh.
Wow.
Spicy, may
Me
tiba.
too.
Wow. Kasi it's true that it's really spicy. Alam mo, mababalikan natin yan mamaya.
But yung research, who specifically yung mga natanong nyo, if I may ask, Elijah?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So these individuals aged 21 to 30, we wanted to look at people in different stages of work life. So some are
Mhm.
students still in college and
Ooh.
almost graduating, right? Like getting ready to enter that workforce. And then we also have some younger professionals, 1 to 2 years into work, still figuring out what is it that they want and what they like doing. And then you have those people in the kind of late 20s stage
Mhm.
where they're getting into management opportunities, they're starting to become leader in their companies. And when it comes
Mhm.
to industry, different industries, some are working in
Ooh.
companies like marketing, for example. Some are doctors, so medyo mas self-employed in a way, but not really. And some are freelancers, self-employed people, and different industries from education to advertising to HR.
Wow.
Mm,
The
that's great.
range.
Mm.
So
That
your research findings, you
mhm.
created a work immersion program with grade
Mhm.
12 students, right? So, like, how was that like? So, did yung research ba na-reflect agad yung mga experience ng mga students na to?
Mm.
Yeah, funny story because actually the work immersion was not a planned part of the research.
Ooh.
Yeah, it just fell into our laps and we took the opportunity. So dapat talaga it was just a research. We had a report. We would join conferences to present the research, and it was really just something we would offer our clients as an added bonus that they can get.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, but one day in September, there was this teacher from a public school in Caloocan City who messaged our page randomly, and she was looking for virtual work immersions. Because if
Wow.
you can imagine, the work immersions they had before the pandemic were all physical, but now that wasn't possible, right? Because of
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic. Yeah, and so they
Yeah.
were looking for companies that could provide work immersion opportunities, and we said, okay, let's have a meeting. At first I thought it was just like 5 students, 10
Mhm.
students, ganyan. And
How
then it
many?
became
300.
337
Oh my
Oh my
students.
lord.
God.
Three
Oh my
digits.
God.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so from there what we did was we used the insights from the research and we
Mhm.
designed a program for them. This was a 1 month work immersion, and they were deployed to 11 different organizations.
Wow. Wow. That seemed like it's also such a great opportunity for them, like to actually be even offered like these opportunities. But also at the same time, it was a good opportunity for you to like really test out
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
really
Mm-hmm.
good findings.
I mean, ako
Findings.
naabutan ako K-12 eh.
Mm.
So, I know the work immersion talaga. Like,
Oo.
naabutan ko yun. I'm like, yung batch ko yung guinea pigs
Mhm.
of grade 12. So,
Mhm.
we were like, of the K-12 program. So, yeah, and work immersion's a big thing. And like, hearing about, how they tap you also. Tapos parang it just fell into your laps. That's amazing, actually. Like, it's
Yeah.
like a need talaga. Yung, especially yung research na to. Kung ano yung na-offer nyo. Kasi,
Yeah.
minsan kasi it's just work immersion. You just need to work. Pero, I
Oo.
mean, there's like this specific kasing inaaral eh. like
Mm-hmm.
sa ano nyo, sa
Mm.
research nyo,
Mm-hmm.
Elijah. So that's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
need that
ja.
talaga.
You hit that right on the head because that's what the teacher said. Before the
True.
pandemic, their kids would just be given work like, oh, Xerox mo to, or
Yeah, make
gagawa ka ng
coffee.
copy. Oh,
Make
May
good.
coffee.
coffee. All you do sa coffee, you just put the
Oo.
heated water sa powders. Like, what am I learning here? God.
Yeah, so we wanted to avoid that, diba?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we did not want for our 337 students. And so, looking at
Yeah.
the research, we tried to look into okay, what are the things that would benefit these trainees in the long run? And
Yeah.
so, we really made sure that okay, they want to do real work with real impact. And we
Yeah.
really made sure that the host organizations would provide them with those opportunities and not just make them do admin work isn't bad, but if that's
Yeah.
all that they'll make you do, you're not really learning exactly about the
Yeah.
business and all of
Mhm,
that. So,
mhm.
Making
yeah.
coffee is not admin work too, guys.
Yeah.
That's a basic thing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And then, but like actually, ako nga, ako yung, if JA was the year K to 12 was placed and they had a work immersion, I was the last year na hindi K to 12.
Ah.
In my year, I wasn't even offered those opportunities. So imagine me na pumunta ako ng UP and doon parang hindi pa required ang internship doon. So like I could only imagine, like I had no work immersion and no intern experience. So like imagine if, like I'm just imagining if I had that at my time, that if I would have such a clear path to wherever or whichever goal I want to achieve now. Napaisip lang ako. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
so same pala tayo. My
Mm.
batch also, I did not do K to 12. So if you wanted to do work experience like through an internship or immersion, you had to seek that out for yourself.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Tsaka iba na
Grabe.
kasi yung generation natin. Like, before, like, hearing, that was the sad thing sa akin eh. Like, yung mga internship ko ngayon, it's online. And that was like the problem before na naiisip ko na, what am I learning kung kahit online? Am I gonna be working online too? Like, am I really being equipped? Kahit online yung internships, I was just trying to join as many as I can
Mm-hmm.
to prepare myself because I don't think na I'm that equipped. Kahit na
Mhm.
nagka-work immersion, all I did was make coffee and Xerox. So I tried to fill that void by joining so many internships. So this is one also positive workplaces. Pero for me this is like a blessing talaga kasi um dun ko parang natututo rin ako while I'm
Mm-hmm.
like working here kung
Yeah.
ano talaga yung hinahanap. Like, hindi lang siya mga mga napaka-idealist thoughts na parang, do what you love, ganto-ganto. But it's also yung reality. So, yeah, I think this is what people need minsan talaga to just about the workplace. Not only about what you love, pero ano ba talaga yung swak or yung talagang sustainable na tatagal sa'yo or tatagal ka sa isang workplace kasi alam mo na
Mm-hmm.
mismo kung anong hinahanap mo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point because we of course we had to run data. We would always get surveys also from the kids who did work immersion with us, and one of the things we found was we did like a pre and post
Mhm.
survey
Ooh,
from the work
research
immersion,
based.
very research based, I would like to think so. Yeah. And what one of the things we found was there was a significant difference in their perception of preparedness. So if you would compare their answers in the question of like, I believe I have the skills I need for the future, if you compare their answers before and after the immersion, that was significantly different from our statistical
Mhm.
analysis. Yeah, and so one of the great things I think with work immersion is you have to be intentional about designing it. Yung hindi lang mag-yes ka to take a work immersion student or
Mhm.
an internship student, you have to design the experience so that it really fits what they need. For example, in our work immersion, it wasn't just about giving them tasks that are real work. We also know that individuals around this age, they like belonging and connection. And
Mhm.
so what we did was we provided community engagement events for them, which means we had like a Halloween party or a Christmas party, even though it's just virtual. We had movie nights so they can get to know
Ooh.
their classmates. And these are the things that, as a company, if you're able to provide these seemingly extra things, you'll realize that they're not extra. They're actually super essential because they need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to relate with each other para mas magaling silang as a team, or they can
Mhm.
collaborate better, 'di ba? Or
Mm-hmm.
another thing we found was people who are like Gen Zs or millennials, we love learning. And so the more you
Ooh.
can provide the learning, the better they feel about what they're going through as an experience. And what
Mhm.
we did was we had 10 free webinars from different experts, ranging from, like, we had someone who co-founded a startup for career coaching, and she talked about resume
Ooh.
building. We had an HR leader from one of the top FMCGs here in the Philippines talk about how you can bring humanity into work. And then we had people
Wow.
from like a sustainability company. They do solar panels. They talked about social responsibility and sustainability. So, diba, very wide ranging topics, but
Yeah.
it's all about how can you bring impact, even though like you're just, if you think you're lower level in the
Mhm.
company or you're
Mhm.
just starting out, because people like that learning it. So yeah, I think, Jat, to your point, being able to design these experiences and giving people what they need to really help them for the future, that's really essential. Because as an individual, baon mo yun eh, to
Oo.
wherever you
Yeah.
go.
Oo.
Yeah.
This actually leads so well to our next question because you gave a little bit of a teaser because you talked about connectedness, belongingness,
Mm-hmm.
all these things that nasagot nila na importante for them. Which leads me to that question nga, which is talking about that future for research. Like what was the key findings? Like what is it that the
Mm-hmm.
Gen Z find important? Like that's what our listeners want to know. Parang ganun.
Yeah, okay. I love this. This is the meat of our research, right? So, if you
Yummies.
think about our framework that we found from the research, the central theme of it is human centered work. When it comes
Mhm.
to looking for like work or finding an organization to join, Gen Zs and millennials, they want an organization that takes humanity into account. They
Tama.
want organizations na dapat when you make decisions, you think of not just the employees, but also other humans involved, like your
Mm-hmm.
customers, or let's say your community. If your
Mm-hmm.
building is in a subdivision, then you
Oo.
think about the people in the subdivision also. So
Mm-hmm.
parang yun yung central theme that the Gen Zs and millennials say they want.
Mm-hmm.
If we break that down, right, like what are the elements of human centered work that people are looking for? Three things that I think we can discuss. First is it's about pay and conditions. So of course we want
Mm-hmm.
to be paid properly, but
Yeah, let's be
also it
real.
goes beyond that, diba? Very very important. So pay and conditions. Number two is purpose, and number three is prestige. Which I'm biased, but I think that was the most interesting part of the
Mm-hmm.
research.
Mhm. Yung input, even though you haven't talked much about it, like the pay and conditions, hindi talaga natin ma-avoid yun eh. It's like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
necessity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Honey, you need to eat, hon.
yeah, you need to eat, you need to provide.
Exactly.
Like so many things tie into pay and conditions because you can tell me like you can be so happy with what you do, but then if the sustenance isn't there, if you're not reaching that goal or you're not able to provide that
Mhm.
safety and security for your family, it puts you off balance eh. Like
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Totally agree, Alma. If you look at a lot of the research, especially the ones from like popular articles around, they tend to over pivot on meaning and purpose.
mm, mm, mm,
They tend to
Ooh.
overemphasize that for the younger generation, you need to provide opportunities for meaning. Pero parang for me, yung nakakalimutan nung mga articles na yon is the importance of pay, right?
mm, mm,
You
Yeah.
can give people a meaningful job, but it's not going to be satisfying if they're not paid properly. And
mm.
so I think that's what we wanted to also emphasize, na hindi lang puro meaning. kailangan both, 'di ba? Gusto natin the best of both worlds. And
Mm-hmm.
some
Tama.
companies might think that's impossible, but if you think it's impossible, you have to start shifting that mindset, because increasingly that's what people are going to be looking for. And you have
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
find ways to provide the best of both of those worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
Yeah, I hear you. So you're
mm-mm.
saying, like out of curiosity, so you're saying, Elijah, that you need to consider all these like four things as in sabay-sabay, or you can just choose, like you can just tick off, for example, just purpose,
Ah,
just out of curiosity.
Mm-mm,
good question. I think based on the insights from our study, you have to be able to provide all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, human centered is the central theme, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you really strive to be a human centered workplace, you can't take out purpose, for example, and just pay people right. Or you can't take
Mm-hmm.
out pay and give people purpose. Like it's all part of that puzzle. Actually, if you can't see our framework, but think about it as like concentric circles in a Venn
mm-mm,
diagram that all intersect with
mm-mm.
each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
got that.
I also just wanted to bring up, and I wanted to bring up this point earlier because you talked about it, about the grade 12 students, like them wanting connectedness and stuff like that. I just wanted to share this experience because me and Ja, um, we are both interns at positive workplaces, and I think this is so great, because I took on a different internship opportunity before. It was a while back, and I was actually taking it alongside positive workplaces. And then what I found there, even though I learned a lot of things, because it was an agency, I
Mhm.
learned a lot of things. The way they treated me though was very, it was almost like, I was like, yung sinasabi nga nila dyan na pinapagawa lang ng menial work. But the thing is like
Kape.
they were making me do good stuff though. Parang stuff that I could actually really learn from. But then the way they treated me, parang kulang sa communication.
Mm.
Imagine, I
No,
would see them in the morning and then they'd say, "Okay, mag-meet tayo ng 3 p.m." I'm like, "Huh? You're only telling me today that we're gonna meet like an hour from now?" Like grabe
no.
yung pagtrato nila sa akin nun. But here in Foster Place, that's why I think I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it and still enjoying it. It's because grabe yung communication here. Like they really make sure that your needs are satisfied. And you mentioned a while ago na when you bring people into your internship or your work immersion, don't think of it like, oh, they're just my little helpers. We begin
Mhm.
sila ng
Mhm.
trabaho.
Yeah,
Parang I'm also doing it for them. I feel that here in positive
human
workplaces,
centered.
even though hindi pa tapos ang internship ko, I can definitely say, me from before I joined positive workplaces to after, I feel much more prepared to face the world.
Yeah. If I may add, sa positive workplaces, marami na rin ako nasalihan na internships nga. Because I was trying to fill the void. Para just to feel that I'm prepared for like the world talaga.
Mm.
Pero like nagulat ako when I entered positive workplaces. Sa onboarding, they were asking the interns to fill up this slide. You have to fill up I'm at my best when,
Oo.
then I'm
Mm.
at my worst when. Then we noticed like out of like the onboardings, nakatatlo na kami. The
So bad.
similar sagot sa I'm at my
Mhm.
best is when you communicate with me properly, when you tell me all the details, when you
Mm.
don't just give me like work, tas you require me to just give it agad. So
Mhm.
they're like, just communicate properly. So that's also
Yeah.
like an observation din na nakikita ko sa generation na to.
Mhm. Mhm.
No, you can't just do that to me. Like you come on.
Like just don't.
Please.
Generation really puts emphasis on like communication. Parang like you need to give me a heads up, tell me ahead of time. Like it's so important to them talaga.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In our insights, part of having good conditions and part of actually enacting one's purpose is having empowered personalization. So that's the term we
Mhm.
labeled it, empowered personalization. Two aspects about that. First is you're empowered to take control and manage your own time and your own autonomy when it comes to making decisions. I think yung example ni Alma, 'di ba? And yours also, Ja, na dapat sabihin mo naman sa akin what I'm doing and when you want me in a meeting. I think that points to that because you want to be able to manage your day and then know what you're going to be doing in your day, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
second aspect of empowered personalization is more around you want to feel like yourself at work,
Yeah.
and when you do the work you do, and being able to connect with other people, having that good communication. I think part of that flows into feeling like you can be you and you're
Mm-hmm.
valued for who you are and what you believe in and what you can bring to the table.
Parang nadaanan na natin yung pay and conditions, of course, very
Mm-hmm.
we brushed by purpose.
Purpose,
Mm.
meaning, yeah.
Let's talk about that third one, like prestige.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
This to me also is the most interesting because we did not expect this to be one of the top themes that the individuals 21 to 30 would choose, I guess, would talk about a lot. But when it comes to prestige, I think what we see from the data is we believe that all jobs should be prestigious. So
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if you think that you're a factory worker in a production line. You are doing good job. So parang
Mm-hmm.
yung basically yung sinasabi natin, hindi natin nilalang lang ang
Oo.
Mm-hmm.
isang trabaho, parang ganun. Because we see
Yeah.
the value in all of them. But at the same time, that's what we want to believe. But we know that society assigns prestige only to
Mhm.
certain jobs, right?
True,
Yeah.
Like,
true.
we would ask our participants, what is a prestigious job for you? Their answer would always be, oh, lahat naman eh. Pero, sabi ni tita, dapat
Pero,
nagdoktor ako.
Yeah,
So,
oh my
oo,
God,
oo.
diba? So, parang,
tita.
yung prestigious job is pag nasasabi daw ng mga tita or tito mo
Oo.
na okay yan. So like pag doctor ka,
Oh.
lawyer ka, yun yung prestige.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting because as people of a younger generation, we seem to be stuck in this middle where we
Mm-hmm.
believe one thing, but we also strive for the approval of
Yeah.
society that yes, you
Oo.
have a
Ouch.
prestigious job, diba?
My
So we
God.
chase
Yes.
for that. And we're
Tama.
so confused na kasi parang, oh
Mhm.
my God, I believe this, but I need to do this. So where do I
Mm-hmm.
stand,
Oo.
right?
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Elijah, I feel attacked. I feel
I feel
attacked by
like
what you just said.
I feel like crying. Oh
Kasi
no.
alam mo, Elijah, grabe yung pagka-relate ko in what you just said. My dad is a very successful person, and he's always a type of he's a very good mentor, and I love my dad as parang a business minded person. So I feel this sort of pressure from him, but not too bad naman. I feel this sort of pressure na anak, you should be joining these companies. Kasi very, parang ang patutunguhan ko is corporate. Yeah, that's where I want to
Mm-hmm,
be.
mm-hmm,
So like my dad and a lot of his friends have this idea about join these companies. Like these
Mm-hmm.
companies. Of course, I'm not gonna name companies. But then it's like these are the companies where they see na diyan magkakapera, diyan magkano. Parang
Mm-hmm.
in the world of corporate, yun ang prestige na hinahanap. But
mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
then like what a lot of people fail to notice, especially the older generations, is there are growing industries. And again,
Yeah.
and even me, there are some industries na maybe I want to be a part of, although it might not be the most lucrative. Parang it's a
mm-hmm,
nice industry growing, and then parang I see that we're catering to a need that not a lot of people are catering to yet. And it
Mm-hmm.
excites me. So parang I agree with prestige kasi again, I also feel that pressure. Grabe, the pressure
Yeah.
talaga. But also at the same time, like I wish parang some people could like level that prestige with with purpose. Kaya nga it's like parang
Mm.
yes,
like
yeah.
no.
Oh my God. Oh
Ganun.
my God.
So,
Ja, your story, go.
Wait, because feel ko nagkakaganyan yung mga tita or parents also kasi ang pangit din minsan kasi ng ano, like yung economy. Like parang they're trying to like it's because we love you and that's why
Mm,
we want this for you. So nasa
mm,
kultura din kasi ng pamilya ng Pilipinas kaya ganon. Kasi parang ang
mm,
hirap talaga like to have like this life that they want you to have, parang ganon. It's
oo.
not gonna be easy. So they have this idea na, okay, para maging masaya ka, ito yung prestige. Ito
Yeah.
yung idea ko. Maging abogado ka,
yes.
maging doktor
Mm-hmm.
ka. And it's because I love you and because I want you to be comfortable. That's it.
Oh, you're
But
doing it for
that's
you.
why,
Parang gano'n.
yeah, it's for you. But then here you are like, really? Is it for me, God? Like,
Yeah.
you started questioning yourself na. So,
Oo.
marami talagang factors kung ano yung prestige or kung bakit may prestige.
Mm-hmm.
Gano'n.
Yeah.
Like, that's like my idea lang. Pero yeah, nagigets ko rin kung bakit siya importante kasi it's also your brain. Eh. It's also it's talking to you like God.
Yes.
It's your So
Yeah,
yeah, I
you're
get it.
so right. There are lots of factors when it comes to prestige. And I think this is why maybe if we do like a part two of the study, prestige is one of those aspects I'd love to dissect even further. Because
Mhm.
you're right, Jai. Like your brain is telling you one thing, but your beliefs, they're telling you one thing also. And so now you're kind of like, you don't know where to go, right? And
Yeah.
Mhm.
that is the general feeling and perception we would get from the people we interviewed, especially yung
Mhm.
sometimes when it gets to the prestige topic, that's when they get stumped. Ang hirap nila sagutin kung what is
Oo.
prestigious for them. Ang hirap nilang ang hirap nilang i-justify yung answers nila kasi at one
Mhm.
moment they're saying all jobs are prestigious, and then the next they're saying only some jobs are prestigious. And if you ask them to reconcile the difference, they're like, oh, now I get it, that I'm confused.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, oo. And you know that's really
Mhm.
great. Parang if you really look into that triad, you'll really see what people really find important when it comes to looking for jobs talaga. And well, Elijah, I wanted to
Mhm.
talk about this, but what makes this episode a little bit more special compared to the others is the theme of our podcast this season is equipping the workforce of tomorrow. So, in the past few episodes, we've been giving stories, tips, advice. We've basically been opening the conversation to topics that these people my age, people
Mm-hmm.
age ni Ja, na they're gonna hear these things and be like, okay, I can use this for when it's my turn to join
Mhm.
the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
But what makes this episode special is because I want this to also target people from a lot of these like multinational companies or organizations, both big and small. Because
Mhm.
I always think that there is this generational gap.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then it's pwede nilang sabihin like, oh, I know what the Gen Z want, but do you really know what we want? This
Yeah,
this is
tita,
why
do
I
you know?
went. Yeah, tita, do you know? Parang like, which is why we also really want like these recruiters, these HR, parang all
Mhm.
these like heads to really like reconsider, am I really giving this new
Yeah.
generation of workers what they really want? So
Mm-hmm.
like ayun, ayun.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned also, Elijah, yung kung ano yung importante dun sa Generation Z and pay and conditions, empowered personalization, purpose, prestige. Pero sa totoo lang, even if para naman tong podcast na to, para to sa Generation Z, lahat naman ng kailangan ng Generation Z, hindi lang manggagaling sa kanila eh, pero manggagaling pa sa ibang generation or the
Right.
people who are
Mm-hmm.
already in the workplace na sasalihan natin. So, it takes two to tango. So it's not only Generation Z who needs like the advice, who needs the tips. There must be compromise eh
Yeah,
para umasenso or mag-flourish yung company na yon. Kasi let's face it, nagcha-change talaga. Consistent ang change.
yeah.
Like
Progress.
nagbabago rin ng tao, nagbabago yung kultura. Ayun nga,
Mm-hmm.
yung may
Mm-hmm.
company nga like Elijah and positive workplaces. Companies natin is for culture eh.
Mhm.
Co-creating cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So, magbabago talaga. And for that to happen, compromise. And, you know,
Yeah.
para
Mhm.
naman to sa ikabubuti ng buhay ng marami. So,
Oo.
yeah. It's
Yeah. You know what,
so,
Ja? I
yeah.
think yes, compromise is important, but I hope companies can start shifting the mindset on that. At the end of the day, you're not compromising. You're giving yourself an advantage. Like you're giving yourself a
Ah, yeah.
competitive
Mm, tama.
advantage if you're able to provide for these things as early as now, 'di ba? So, sana hindi nila
Mhm.
isipin na nagko-compromise lang ako kasi yan yung gusto nila. But
Ah, okay,
no,
yeah.
like this is the kind of environment that will allow people to thrive. So get ahead of it. Like why not do it
Yes.
now?
Yeah, it's
Oo.
for you, tita.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, Elijah, that's so powerful. Actually, that is one of the reasons why I thought about this topic. Me and Ja were talking about it. It's one of my shower thoughts because it's hard to find research on this, but then the thought just entered my head, and I thought, I feel like a lot of the companies now that are like thriving, succeeding, I feel like those companies are the ones that can really cater well to the newer generation of workers.
Mhm.
Let's face it, a lot of the newer generation have, we have fresh minds, brilliant creative minds just waiting to be activated. But then you can't
Mhm.
use the same formula and expect like the same amount of greatness. What if
Mhm.
you're misusing their talents? Like what if you could maximize that even further but
Yeah.
you're just not doing it right? So like
Yeah.
I love that we're talking about this, and I really hope that this progress, yung sinasabi ni Ja earlier na this progress will really be like achieved talaga. Grabe.
Mm. See, ang
Mhm.
daming yun nga, ang daming ma-activate na skills. Kaya dapat hindi ginagamit sa pagtimpla ng kape lang. Like, I'm so
Parang feelings ni Ja.
coffee. Anyway, so
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, the when I was in Microsoft, the CEO, the current CEO, Satya Nadella, he would always say something like, you have to find out how you can use the company as a platform for your own purpose. And so
Mhm.
that's what I hope we can start to do, right?
Mhm.
Like what you said earlier, it takes two to tango. So from the younger generation, we have to be able to verbalize our purpose, talk about that, share that as widely as you can. Like, don't be shy to talk about what's important for you and what matters, what your advocacies are, for example, because that's one way that people will know what your purpose is and what the impact is that you'd like to do. So I think from our side, that's the work we need to do, 'di ba? Isipin
Oo.
mo 'yon,
Yeah.
reflect on that kasi hindi naman natin pwede sabihin lang na I want meaningful work, pero hindi mo naman alam kung ano yung impact na gusto mong
Mhm.
i-create. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be sure 100%, 'di ba? Pwede namang yung for now, ito yung gusto kong purpose. So
Mhm.
dapat nagre-reflect tayo on that as young
Mhm.
people and we share that. And then from the side of the companies, I think the companies and managers, leaders, recruiters, for example,
Mhm.
they have to be asking these questions.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Change the way you select your people, for example, instead of just looking at skills and education as the most important factors. Ask them, like, what would you want to do when you get to this company? How will our company help you with the impact you want to create? Because people who have answers to that are most likely the ones who can really thrive in that organization. And so
Mhm.
I think it's also about changing your processes, right? As a manager, get to know your people beyond just nagawa mo ba yung pinapagawa ko sa'yo? Or June na
Mhm.
to, nagawa mo ba to? You have to get to know them and what is it that they do in their spare time, for example. Do they volunteer in this organization or that organization? What skills do they need so they can be better at making their impact? So yeah, I
Mhm.
think just from the very just from the perspective of purpose, that's what we can do from like the young people side and also the side of the organizations.
Mhm.
Yung ending yan, communication lang din, di ba? Like, we
Mhm.
Yeah.
have to open those lines, talk about it, commit to giving time for it, even though we're all super busy. I get that. But these are topics na we may not be able to give like a full blown change or overhaul in terms of how we do work now. But if we start with those
Mhm.
little conversations, that's a good way to push the culture to that direction.
Wow.
Mhm.
Elijah, that was so well said. Kasi we really make it a point na after each podcast episode that we have actionable steps that our listeners can take. And then you just laid it out so clearly. Like you have to put
Oh.
it out there. Pag-usapan mo, if you need to verbalize these things, again, that's amazing. And you didn't only give actionable steps to us listeners probably going through these same problems, but even the companies that should hear more about this. I think that's
Mhm.
really so amazing. So amazing talaga. Mhm.
Thank you, Elijah.
Yeah, thank
Mm-mm.
you also. It's always good to talk about these things with other young people, right? I think
Mm.
that's the magic. I hope all generations can figure out that if you talk about these things intergenerationally, you'll learn so much and get so much from each other's energies.
Yes. Yun, just like what Jess said, Elijah, we really want to thank you for taking this opportunity, for to join us and like share the insights of your
Yeah.
research. I really know this research. Patok talaga yan because marami tayong matatamaan na tao. Like,
Yeah.
they need to hear about this. Elijah,
Essential.
yeah, Elijah, where can we get access to this research of yours?
Yeah, so the easiest way is if they follow us on Facebook at Elijah Corpus Consulting. So that's Elizha. It's kind of hard to pronounce, but yeah, it's Elijah Corpus Consulting on Facebook. And from there, they'll find the links to where they can download our different resources.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Ayun. Wow, thanks so much, Elijah. And I hope our listeners listened well for that. And yun, we want to
Yeah.
thank you. Um, but lastly, our podcast is coming to a close. And, there's a lot of
Yeah.
people we want to thank. So, Jack, you want to take over from.
Yeah, we wanna say thank you to Positive Workplaces for giving us the autonomy. Wow, autonomy. For this project, because me and Alma, madaldal kami. So ginagamit na rin namin yung skills namin at mga
Mm-hmm.
strengths namin. Um, um, you know, um, dahil we find meaning and purpose na rin dito sa project na to. So thank you sa Positive Workplaces, kay John, Nikki, and to you, our listeners, and also sa lahat na naging guest namin sa 5 episodes na to, including you, Elijah. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you also, Alma, for being the
Yeah.
best.
Mm.
Woo!
Yeah, thank you rin, Ja. And yun, I really parang and also of course our team. We'd like to thank our team kasi that we received so much help from our team. Like it wasn't
Yes!
just me and Ja. We want to thank the team talaga.
You guys might be thinking, will there be a third season ng podcast? Not yet sure,
Mhm.
but the good thing about Spotify, you can always check out the first season again. Go check that out. And you can always listen to our other episodes dito sa second season, Generation Positive.
Mhm.
So once again, thank you for joining us sa season na to. We hope na marami kayong napulot, marami kayong natutunan, at marami kayong share sa inyong friends and family.
Mhm.
So once again, this is Ja and Alma. You tuned into.
Generation Positive.
Bye.